I almost quit my coaching business a few years ago because it felt like it wasn't going anywhere. It was difficult, it was hard, and every day felt like a slog. But I didn't. And thankfully I didn't, because now I'm making enough to buy up some other small businesses and start diversifying what I do. The story is really interesting though. So a few years ago I had a life and a career coaching practice, both of which did six figures relatively quickly, and I enjoyed a lot of success. But when I pivoted into business coaching, things slowed down, like glacially slowed down. I'd get a couple of core clients, I'd serve them really powerfully, they'd get great results, and they would go, and I would start the whole feast and famine cycle of trying to find a new client. There was a lot of difficulty, a lot of learning, and a lot of pain. The frustration of how slow it was, especially after early success, almost crushed me. But I didn't quit. Instead, I listened to a recommendation from a friend, which was to listen to Seth Godin's Startup School podcast. And after a few episodes, I was kind of ready to check out until he happened over a book that he wrote. And this book, it kind of unlocked something, an awareness of things that I was and wasn't doing, and a framework that I found extremely powerful. Now, when I say powerful, I mean it changed everything for me, not just in my coaching business. I've used this to get multiple belts in martial arts. I've used this to lose a ton of weight. I used to be about 370 pounds, and no, I don't have pictures. If you were ever 370 pounds, you'd know why you don't have pictures. I've used this to improve my relationships, my bond with my son. I've used it to improve my finances. And most importantly, I've used it to supercharge my business and that of my clients. And that concept, or that framework, is called the dip. Now, this is something that's been discussed at length by a bunch of other people. The most prominent one is probably the 5 phases of change, which some of you may or may not be aware of. But essentially, Seth Godin's book called The Dip discusses this bad boy right here. Going well, whoop. It's discussing what he calls the dip. While this concept has been discussed by a lot of people, I feel like Seth delivers it in the most punchy, impactful, and concise way. So what is the dip? The dip is quite simply the expected tough period we encounter after trying to do something meaningful or when we're chasing a meaningful goal. Not only is it expected, but we can expect that logically on the other side is excellent and acceleration of growth. Now, the real problem with this is that no one sees it coming. No one understands this, least of all coaches, least of all business owners, because often we're high on that brand new certification. We've just got a couple of warm referrals from friends. We met someone at a party. We are riding this big initial high. A lot of new businesses start this way. We don't see the dip coming because we enter a stage of unrealistic optimism. And that's the trap. Because as coaches, we tend not to build marketing or marketing systems. We tend not to build sales systems. We don't do the hard work when it's easy because we don't know that it's going to get really hard. And while it's not your fault, it creates a series of unrealistic mental frameworks, I guess is the best way to put it, when you enter something that's very difficult or a phase that's very, very difficult. I know for myself, I started thinking that maybe I'm not meant to coach. Maybe everything was luck. Maybe there's no way I can figure this out. There's no way I can get through this. It's meant to be hard. If I love it, it's meant to be really hard. And, it may or may not improve, or maybe I'm incapable of actually getting through it. All these kinds of things come up when we enjoy this early success, but we don't plan for the dip. Now, what I love is that Godin maintains that not only is this dip always, 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 always present, we should expect, and more importantly, plan for it. If you want examples of how this plays out in real life, think of when you start any new job, career, position, whatever. You kick off, everything feels smooth, it's exciting, it's new, it's fresh, and we have this huge, huge initial surge of motivation. After a while, that motivation dies off. What ends up happening, we get apathetic, we fall into routine, all these kinds of things. We have a natural slump. A good example within business, especially for a lot of coaches out there, is content creation. People start fully motivated, and after a couple of months, it becomes a chore. And after it becomes a chore, it becomes a job. Then you start dreading it. The dip is a perfectly natural part of content creation. If you persist and you carry on through that difficulty, that awkwardness, learning what copywriting is, learning what sales language is, learning how to market, all these kinds of things, on the other side, 6, 9, 12 months later, things start to improve. Now, business is the perfect example and the perfect place to encounter this dip. You're high on certifications, you're high on meaning, you're high on purpose, you're high on the drive of fulfillment and impact. But then slowly and surely, It's a struggle to find people. It's a struggle to grow your business. It's a struggle to expand. It's a struggle to balance. The worst outcome for a lot of coaches is that they have a lot of early success and now they have a bunch of clients they're balancing and they are burnt out and they are overwhelmed. And at the end of the day, you're in the middle of the dip, struggling your ass off, and you're wondering, where is this flawless lifestyle business that I was promised? So what I want to go through is the core takeaways from the book, as well as some insights from myself and some learnings from applying this with dozens and dozens of clients. And as always, if this doesn't land for you, feel free to jump away, but I'm building this for my clients, for an earlier version of myself, and for my son hopefully one day, because I feel like this is going to drastically improve his life. So, point number 1, strategic quitting isn't failure, it's being smart. Now, we're told the lie that quitters never win and winners never quit. That is an absolute lie. All of the greatest winners in life have learned when to quit. They haven't learned not to quit. They've learned how and when to apply so that they save time on their investment in a dead end. How do I know when I should quit? Very simple. What is the time I'm willing to invest in this before I should see a result? You should always delay that. For example, this YouTube channel, I'm willing to invest 12 months in it, a dedicated 12 months, ideally weekly, producing content of value, because it's going to give assets to my clients, it's going to give me references and resources to cut up and use later on, and it's something that I can show my son to help him get on this path much faster than I could on my own. Decide how long you're willing to invest in something before you see a goal. If you go over that, or it's 10 times that, well, then you've overshot. Is what you're trying to do a common theme or trend in your life? Is it an element of passion that keeps recurring, or is it something you've kind of ham-fistedly forced in there to try and get an outcome? Do you enjoy the process of doing it? Is this something you enjoy learning about? Is this something you enjoy doing? Is this something you enjoy executing? Not the result. If you are chasing just the result, quit now. But if you enjoy actually actively doing this, you'll stick with it anyway. What is the opportunity cost of not quitting? Is it going to compromise relationships? Is it going to sacrifice time with your kids that you can't get back? Is there a major health problem you might encounter from doing it? If all of those feel like they're a possibility, it's time to quit. The last one, are you not quitting because of the time or effort you have sunk into this? Don't fall into the trap of thinking that time sunk into activities is not useful afterwards. You can take these lessons, take these skills, take these elements, and apply them to the next big thing you want to do. Staying with something just because you've invested time in it, or effort, or money in it, is not a reason to stay with it. You won't stay long term, and you'll produce subpar results. So, how do we apply strategic quitting to the concept of big endeavors? Create a quitting contract. Write down to yourself or to an accountability partner the big goal that you want to achieve, and ideally add metrics. I'm talking to coaches, you all know how to do goal setting. Write down the difficulties, roadblocks, or key things that will slow you down as you go. Really brain dump this. No answer is stupid. Write them all down. It's important that you are aware cognitively of what's going to slow you down before you encounter it. You're not going to catch them all, but if you account for a lot of them, you're going to be golden. Third thing, write down what you are willing to sacrifice to achieve your end goal. I do this for all goal setting. It's a big tip for anyone working in the life coaching space. Ask them to identify what they're willing to sacrifice to achieve this end goal. There will always be sacrifice, period. It's just whether you're willing to step into it or not. And if you call it out in advance, it's so much easier to deal with later on. Like when I wanted to lose weight, I was like, I'm going to sacrifice cookies. And to this day, it hurts. It really does. It really does. But now there are sometimes food, according to Cookie Monster. Finally, write down all of the criteria that you would absolutely quit if you encountered. Your mental well-being, your health, your relationships, a major financial milestone, the core, success criteria to make you quit. When you combine that with the timeline earlier on, it becomes very clear when you should or shouldn't quit. And if you do this for every major undertaking, you're going to be on point. Trust me. Point 2, the dip creates scarcity. The people who make it through this gap, through this dip, are the ones who succeed on the other end. Difficulty simply seeks to shortlist and reduce the competition in the market. The dip is fantastic for this. The harder it is to get through, the harder it is to move through, the less people you are fighting on the other side once you've pushed through it. This is how you create a brand. This is how you create a reputation. This is how you create a product that stands the test of time. Now, if you plan for the dip, you're prepared. And that means you're part of the select few that made it. And the shocking statistic is that in the inside of 3 years, Over 80% of coaches usually end up going back to a 9 to 5 or closing their business. But if you know this is coming and you've planned for the difficulty and you've planned for a 12-month window, then you're going to be ahead of the vast majority. Point number 3, the fastest way to your goal is through the dip. Everyone, including myself, seeks to do this. Woo! We want to jump from the good stuff to the good stuff. And this is human nature. That makes total sense, right? But in business, it doesn't translate. It really doesn't. We want the super magic button. We want the list. We want the script. We want the tools. We want the framework that's going to take us step by step through all of the good stuff and experience only the great things. But that's not life. That's not reality. And it sure as shit is not business. You must go through the shortest path, literally, is through the hard stuff. All growth comes from discomfort or pain, and we often seek to avoid it, which means we don't get the growth we need. But that leaves us ill-prepared and without the lessons we need if there's ever any more adversity or if we ever need to push to a different level. There's a bunch of easy deployable things. I do a lot of frameworks and a lot of scripts in my courses and my coaching programs, but that only takes you so far. You must naturally get used to the dip. You must naturally get used to that adversity. So much so that I'm going to start mandating all of my clients read this book. Point number 4, you must be compelled to move through the dip. Casual commitment isn't enough. Money isn't enough. You must be compelled. You must be chasing that meeting. You must be chasing that fulfillment. And I know we all are. But you have to feel it deep inside you because this will suck if you let it. 6, 12, 18 months sometimes of glacially slow progress. But I promise you, if you get the right tools, the right help, you will pull through the other side. You must seek this learning. You must be compelled to move through it. You must be prepared. Point number 5. I like to reframe what the dip is and my contribution to it. Most people view it as the necessary difficulty, or that's what Godin maintains, or they like to see it as, okay, yep, it's going to suck for a little while, then I'm going to move through. I like to view every contribution, everything I do as foundational assets. I am investing time, effort, energy, money, learning. I'm investing that in future ease, in future momentum. And the more I invest into that, the more that momentum and that ease will be. And I guarantee you this is the case. A great example is my journey on LinkedIn or anywhere else, hell, even this YouTube channel. I seek to spend 6 to 12 months trying to tackle a social channel. And at first, that's extremely difficult. It's hard. I have to learn the mechanics. I have to learn the algorithms. I have to learn and build and plan and have a habit around the cadence of it. It sounds like a lot. But here I am 12, 18 months later on each of these platforms, and my content's scheduled and automated. It's all done 6 months in advance. I live the easy life, so now I can tackle a new platform like YouTube. So view everything as an investment in future momentum and future ease. And that may be 2 months, that may be 2 years, but it's an investment. Point number 6, it's important to be the best in the world. Hear me out. It's important to be the best in your client's world, delivering your specific flavor of coaching, your specific transformational purpose or promise, working with your specific group of clients. The more specificity you have, the easier and shorter the dip will be. This was a major unlock for me. I was fighting the niching discussion, but the more granular you get with that niche, the more condensed and the sharper that dip will be, the faster you'll pull through it and the faster you'll experience growth on the other side. So if you're still resisting the niching discussion, have a chat with me, drop a comment below, but you are absolutely hamstringing yourself. You are trying to boil the ocean. Go deep with one thing. Once you get through the other side of the dip, you can expand as much as you like, and every dip after that will be shorter, sharper, and more shallow. And finally, point 7. How do we do this? The dip intentionally and thankfully tests your intent and forces an identity shift. If you view the dip as a necessary part of the process, it lets you challenge your current identity and ask yourself, who do I need to become to achieve this? What do I need to learn? Who do I need to evolve in? How does my thinking, my bias, my belief set have to change to become this new person? It will test you. Absolutely. You can be as prepared as you want, but it's going to test you. But you must force that identity change. And at the end of the day, as coaches, identity change is all we really deal in. So we should be doing it for ourselves first and foremost. So let's recap. Starting is super easy, especially with business. But monetizing, building a pipeline, building out a lead flow list, building out marketing systems, all that kind of stuff is the dip. 2, it's not fair to quit a niche, a platform, an offer that's not working, doing it early enough and from a place of abundance and facts, not feelings, isn't failure. It's smart strategy. 3, the dip necessarily filters out the dabblers. If you're in the dip right now and you're struggling right now, congratulations, you're on track. Stick with it. You're going to be amazing out the other end, I promise you. 4, choose your dip intentionally. Go really deep on one offer, one platform, and one niche so that you can become world-class at who you serve. And 5, consistency wins, especially in saturated marketplaces like coaching. Anyone can show up casually for a month or two, but those who stick it out for years get paid. Now, if you're stuck in the dip, I encourage you to push through it. I encourage you to seek learning. I encourage you to seek expansion because you need to know that you are on the right path. You are exactly where you should be. It should be difficult. It should be hard, and that's okay. You're investing in how much success you're going to have later on. Focus on learning, testing, and adapting. You're exactly where you should be. And once, please, for the love of God, once you start seeing momentum build, don't switch off. Double down. You will know when it's time to take your foot off the gas. Now, going through the dip isn't easy, but it's where real growth actually happens. And the coaches who make it out, they are the ones who build the businesses that they've always dreamed of. So if you're ready to not just survive the dip, but actually thrive in it, then the next step is learning how to attract the right clients for your coaching business. So click on over to the next video where you'll learn how to attract high quality clients that are ready to invest, they're excited to work with you, and you'll do it without funnels, ads, and feeling gross, salesy, and pushy. I promise. I'll see you over there.